China is imposing a curfew on children, an online curfew. The government will ban under 18s from playing online video games between 10 in the evening and 8 in the morning. They'll also be restricted to 90 minutes gaming on weekdays and 3 hours on weekends and holidays. Officials say that the health of children is being damaged by excessive gaming. Even the President Xi Jinping has weighed in, warning that their eyesight could suffer. In a moment, we'll hear from a recovering, self-declared game addict. First, let's get more on the rules announced today out of Beijing. Kerry Allen is our China media analyst. How big is gaming in China?
It's very, very common. Older children often go to internet cafes and they can play computer games. It dominates people's lives. It's the most common activity. So, yeah, it's absolutely huge.
And you think more so, I mean, just sort of anecdotally, more so than perhaps in the West? There seem to be fewer limits on how long kids play online?
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I'm thinking back to statistics I've seen recently. The average time that people spend just in general looking at their mobile phones is more than 5 hours a day. So a very, very long period of time. And this is
in China?
This is in China, yeah. And also China is developing, in the last few years, it's been developing its e-gaming industry. So this has become very popular, that people have the idea that if they enjoy gaming, they can make a career out of it.
Am I right in thinking that already there are some voluntary guidelines that companies are supposed to follow?
Yeah, they are. So, I mean, one of the things we have to remember with China is that the media environment is very, very tightly controlled. So people can't just download Western apps or apps from other countries onto their phone. A lot of the apps that are allowed into China are domestic ones. So it will be the case that there will be companies that are in charge of these apps and people play games through them. So in China, Tencent Games is one of the big platforms, and that hosts a lot of computer games and mobile apps. And they've already had restrictions in place that say that after a certain period of time, it identifies per day if people are playing computer games for a long period of time, they'll just be booted out and they can't play any longer.
Right. I guess, though, I mean, you know, kids, gamers, they're pretty good at workarounds.
Yeah. Well, there have been ways previously that I mean, one of the things that's been coming up on Sina Weibo, the equivalent of Facebook or Twitter in China, is that people might use, say, their parents' or their grandparents' devices so that they can play computer games. And I would say that will probably still happen, but this message has come from the top authority, the regulator in China, and they really want to make a change to this because it's affecting a lot of things. It's affecting children's concentration because they're playing games for such a long period of time. It's affecting things like sleep because after parents have turned the lights off and their kids go to bed, if they've got mobile devices, they can still play around, and this will encourage them that they can't. They're just locked out of these mobile games.
One of the things about China being a rigidly, centrally controlled state is that they may well be able to impose these sorts of restrictions.
Well, they do, yes, because what they do is they put pressure on companies and they say, if you don't comply with these restrictions, you could get a huge fine, you could be penalised, the people who work at your company could be penalised. So there aren't people who are thinking they could slip through the cracks. They're thinking that they could lose their business if they don't comply with these regulations.
The BBC's China media analyst, Kerry Allen.